Hey guys, and welcome back to Mad About Skin. In today's video, we're talking, is this all over for Korean skincare? Now, I know what you're thinking. We have been here before. Every time there's a change or a shock in the industry, people are always quick to say, right, that's it. Korean skincare is done. And well, here we are in 2025 and it's going from strength to strength. However, the recent changes in tariff rules coming out of the US might be the final straw when it comes to access to Korean skincare here in the West. It's got a lot of people panicked online. I'm a huge fan of Korean skincare, and I would say it makes up around 50% of my skincare routine. So when I read some of these reports, it did genuinely alarm me. However, having digested things, I think there's an awful lot that we can pick apart, and I want to share with you my thoughts, feelings, opinions in today's video. Sit back, relax, let's talk the future of Korean skincare. Now, a huge spoiler alert, in today's video, I do think there are going to be some changes to the Korean skincare market, potentially impacting pricing and accessibility to products. But do I think 2025 is going to be the year Korean skincare is over? Absolutely not. I think it has a bright future, but as always in skincare, I want to bring you guys the latest information so you can make informed decisions when it comes to your own skincare routines. If you appreciate this style of video where we go under the hood of a topic in skincare, make sure to let me know by reaching down and giving the video a big thumbs up and a like. The more likes a video gets, the more widely YouTube will distribute it on its platform. So it just means as many people as possible can put their minds at ease by hearing this message. Now, today's video is actually the final installment in Skincare Week of 2025. This is something I run every single year here on the channel, where for 1 week in July, I double the frequency of uploads from every other day to daily. It's been 7 videos in 7 days, and I've thoroughly enjoyed uploading them and sharing them with you guys. I still have loads and loads of suggestions for video content that you guys have given me, so don't worry, they are all going to be coming in the next couple of months. I really feel re-energized when it comes to filming. So if you had any video requests or recommendations that you'd like to see, make sure to let me know down in the comment section below, because I always want to create the content that you guys most enjoy watching. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you to each and every one of you for being with me through another year of Skincare Week, and honestly, I won't be here without you guys. Now, without further ado, let's cut that waffle and delve straight on in. So if you haven't guessed already, a lot of the conversation around the future of Korean skincare centers around the implementation of a 25% tariff rate by the US administration on South Korea commencing the 1st of August. This is going to have a whole wide-ranging set of implications, but I think sometimes the worry takes over, and actually when we unpick things, there might be fewer impacts than maybe we expect, and hopefully I'll be able to put your minds at ease during this video. So this tariff implementation is of course between the US and South Korea. So anybody that's watching this video from the other 4 corners of the world might be thinking, well, what's this got to do with me? Well, a whole lot actually, because we don't just live in isolated pockets. Obviously, brands operate globally and we're all interconnected. So what happens in one country can definitely have a knock-on impact on another. So we're first going to talk about that, and then going to come on to why I think some of the fear might be a little bit overblown or exaggerated, and how actually potentially not a lot might change, essentially in the short term at least. So let's talk about why this might be a global issue. Well, first and foremost, the US, which is going to be impacted by these tariffs, represents around 30% of the Korean skincare market outside of South Korea. That's a huge chunk. So a lot of brands, Korean skincare brands, make most of their money outside of South Korea, and around 30% of that global trade will come from the US. Now, 30% of business is a lot to have impacted, and the worry is that a lot of brands will start to say, you know what, maybe this isn't economical for us, maybe this isn't going to work, and so they're really going to reduce production and focus in on the home domestic market of South Korea. That could limit the access to Korean skincare products globally, not just in the US. Of course, there is that worry that if prices go up by 25% in the US, which is likely at the end of the day when tariffs are implemented, that then gets passed on to the consumer and that'll see higher prices. However, the worry is that if 25% is a pretty significant jump, and that'll put off and deter a lot of US consumers from purchasing Korean skincare products. As a result, sales will go like that. And that's another reason why brands might start to say, you know what, is a global approach what we're looking for? Should we focus more on our home market, which is more stable, and where we can grow our business there? Do we think this is actually going to happen and manifest? I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm going to come on to that a little bit later in the video, but I definitely think this is where a lot of the worry is focused, how that 30% share of Korean skincare market that the US represents could be heavily impacted and have a knock-on impact globally. The other thing that seems to concern commentators is the price increases that are likely to be seen globally, not just in the US. And that's because often brands don't price by location. Obviously, with a 25% tariff rate, that's going to get passed on to the US consumers by the majority of the big Korean skincare brands. However, they're not likely to just pass that on to the US. They're likely to apply a standardized cost across the globe. So a couple of the less scrupulous brands out there might decide to just wholeheartedly increase their pricing across the globe. And so whilst there won't be tariffs impacting the rest of the world, we might see that knock-on impact in terms of price rises. Whether it'll be the full 25%, I doubt it. But brands, however, wherever they come from in the world, are known for being a little bit price driven and shady at times. So I wouldn't expect price rises to just be limited to the US, but kind of see this as an excuse to reprice globally. And of course, also consumers, we're always the ones that are likely to pay the price for that. However, that's the negative bit. Let's park that. Let's get that out of the way. There are a couple of reasons why I think this change, whilst significant, might not actually spell the end of Korean skincare or be as dramatic as some people are making out online. First and foremost, let's talk about the 70% of the rest of the world that still exists. Yes, the US is a huge portion of the international Korean skincare market, but the other 70% is made up of other countries which won't be imposing these tariffs. So I don't think any brand out there wants to see 30% of their business impacted, but 30% still isn't a majority, and most brands will be able to kind of get around that, maybe reprofile their offering, but work within the constraints of that. And that's what I genuinely believe will lead to less of an impact globally than maybe people expect. The second reason why I think the impacts are going to be a bit more muted than maybe people expect is a lot of the Korean skincare brands actually manufacture in the US, at least some of their stock. Take Sun By My, for example. This is one of the most popular Korean skincare brands. They actually manufacture quite a few of their products in the US alongside South Korea. And of course, if you manufacture in the US, you won't be charged those tariffs. So a lot of brands will automatically be able to redistribute some of their stock, their manufacturing capabilities, to kind of minimize the impact of any tariff changes. So that's always worth bearing in mind. If you look at a brand like Crave Beauty, Sun By My, Purito, these are brands which do have capabilities in the US, and so will be able to manufacture for that market in order to avoid the 25% uplift. Does that mean there's going to be no impact? Absolutely not. There's lots of brands that don't do that, but I think sometimes the impact might be a lot less than people are expecting because of the varied different manufacturing locations, particularly of the huge, internationally powerful Korean skincare brands. Thirdly, let's talk about the price to start with. I think a lot of people are saying a 25% increase in Korean skincare prices, which is like the worst case scenario, is going to be too much for consumers to handle, and that'll mean most of us will walk away from our Korean skincare and look elsewhere. Now that might be the case for some, but looking elsewhere isn't quite as simple as that, because Korean skincare starts at such a low price point that even with a 25% addition, it's still a lot cheaper than some of the big Western brands. Look at La Roche-Posay, for example. You walk into your drugstore or pharmacy, you want to buy a La Roche-Posay serum, you're looking at paying £40 or £45 for that serum. The same goes for Olay. These are some big Western brands. Even with a 25% uplift, some of the great formulas from the Korean skincare market are still going to be cheaper than the Western equivalents. Do I think that makes any of this okay? I don't, but I definitely think we need to see it in the context of the competition still being more expensive, even with a 25% uplift, which is of course the worst case scenario. So I think people are going to maybe take a look at any price increases and think, wow, that's jumped. Then look at the comparison and the competitors and think, I'm still probably better staying with those amazing Korean skincare formulations, even with a price hike, because it's still going to be cheaper. That's still going to hurt people's pocketbooks, wallets, and purses. But it is still something to bear in mind that it's not quite as easy to just switch to a competitor that in most cases will still be more expensive. So overall, do I think 2025 is the end of Korean skincare? Absolutely not. I think it will still go from strength to strength, maybe just at a slightly slower growth pace. I do believe that if you're in the US and watching it from the US, if you are, I'm sending you so much love. I do think that's where the biggest impact is going to hit, because obviously any increase in tariffs, charges, or regulations, the cost of those is most likely going to be passed on by the brands to the consumers themselves. Some brands that already manufacture in the US might be shielded from this, but the majority don't. And so I do think that's where the biggest impact is going to hit. Outside of the US, I think the impact is going to be very minimal. I expect here in the UK, for example, that we'll still be able to get hold of our favourite serums, lotions, and potions. And whilst there might be some slight price increases, I hope that most Korean skincare brands will hold their nerve, do the right thing, and obviously not all pass on costs which haven't actually been incurred in that territory. I guess time will tell, but my main reason for filming this is to say to you guys, if you're as big a fan of Korean skincare as I am, don't fear. Don't go into panic mode. Of course, read the information that's out there, but let's stop looking at everything as the worst case scenario and think, what's actually logically likely to happen? I think Korean skincare has a very bright future, but of course, all of that can chop and change as time goes on. And I'll promise to keep you guys updated. But if you've made it this far to the bitter end of Skincare Week 2025, make sure to let me know by reaching down and leaving the heart emoji down in the comments. That way I can thank you for being part of Skincare Week this year, which honestly, I think has been the best one yet. It's enabled me to tackle some topics which I haven't had time to film before, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you to each and every one of you for making all this possible. Wherever you are in the world, guys, stay safe, stay well, and love your skin. Take care. Bye.